And now for something completely different.
It's a rich man's world.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal, the full story, real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And welcome to The Real Deal. Well, it's Financial Fitness Friday. I'm Rich Rosso, CFP, Danny Ratliff, CFP. Thanks for being here with us today. So appreciate it. Danny looks like his yield curve is inverted this morning. How you doing there, buddy?
Doing okay. How about you?
He looks like he's had as much sleep as I've had.
That's probably pretty fair. Danny had a traffic encounter this morning. Yeah, it was fun.
I came across it first.
No, I came across it first.
No, right. You came across it. You reported it.
Yes. In Houston, we have a problem with wrong-way drivers. And so I'm tooling along the tollway at, 4:30, and there's a guy heading the wrong way in the median, and so I called it in.
And I think mine was actually separate incident.
Was yours at the toll booth?
Yep.
Yep, separate incident.
Oh. Perfect 50th, and that's in honor of the 50th anniversary of The Godfather. Danny at the toll booth, getting shot up. So, no, mine was what Brent saw today. The wrong way drivers are part of what we call not the outliers in Houston. They are part of the normal curve. I don't get it. Or maybe I do get it and I just don't want to deal with it. But those are the things you have to deal with. Well, speaking of head-on collisions, welcome to the markets. Actually, futures are up today. Sort of a good day yesterday, Danny. I know the 10 years close to 2.35%, but markets seem to be handling everything in stride right now.
It looks like we came back a little bit. We got back a little bit of those losses that we had from the day before. The worst day we've had in what, 6, 7 on Wednesday?
Yeah.
So, it's interesting how quick the, people's perception and mindset can change from where we've been so bad. Everything was coming to an end. Everything was going to fall. And now people are like, wait a second, now I need to get back in. And so we have to be cautious, though, because this could be a reflexive bounce more than it could be just, hey, things are hunky-dory. We've priced in all the potential interest rate increases, which, we keep hearing these magic numbers, 7, 8 times. What's the likelihood we get there? I mean, we went from, half a basis point to 25 basis points just with this last hike. Next meeting's not till May. We may see this happen a little bit sooner, actually, if we continue to see inflation numbers persist. We could be surprised, and what would the market do with that?
Well, yes, absolutely. I think Powell is trying to bully about 4 rate hikes. And what I mean by that is he's just talking his game. So markets adjust. How he gets to 6 more rate hikes in the face of the slowdown for first quarter economic growth, which is literally falling off a cliff, is beyond me. So either he's going to be sort of Volcker-like and not care. I highly doubt it. Powell is no Volcker. Actually, I don't even know what the Fed does anymore. That makes any sense.
Financial stability.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the irony of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, think back to 2018 when he tried to raise rates. We saw a 10% decline, and next thing you know, he comes to be the savior of the markets. And but the biggest difference here is there is actually that inflation, and from many different areas.
Well, it's real now,
Yeah.
right? It's not this. And there was some reference to the 2% benchmark, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's like, yeah, my hairline is the same way it was when I was 20.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking nonsense with this benchmark. Stop treating us like we're idiots. Because if we're following the Fed, investors, institutional investors, retail investors, we're not stupid. We understand, right? Raise your benchmark.
Well, the benchmark
take it away
was set
altogether.
There, but I think that benchmark was there initially just to give some type of a barometer of success of the markets and say, hey, if we're below it, here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep this quantitative easing here. If we get above it, that's when we can start to tighten a little bit or give us the leeway to do something. Because they haven't done anything.
This Fed is as dated as a rectal thermometer, okay? This Fed is absolutely ridiculous. We talk about it all the time. You drive up to your house, it's fully ablaze, all the fire trucks are out there, and they're standing there watching it. Powell comes by like Artie Johnson on his little tricycle and with a water gun, and he shoots the fire, and then he falls over. He is an idiot. That's all I'm going to say.
You know, I think he's been watching too many of the Three Stooges this week.
Something.
But think about it, Danny. We actually have some of the worst inflation we've seen in over 30 years, and yet the Fed still does nothing. We still have emergency procedures in place.
Yeah.
Why? When people ask me, people that are astute investors or clients ask me why, I don't have an answer.
Well, no, you do have an answer. I mean, it's twofold. Well, yeah, of course.
I just fell off my tricycle, Brent. I have an answer. Go ahead.
Well,
what's my answer?
The answer here is that maybe things aren't as good as what they're saying they are. And I think that's where the problem lies, right? So we have all this economic data. We have best jobs numbers since 1969. We have a lot of different data coming in, and everything looks to be rather promising. However, where we came from is much, much different than where we are today.
Yeah.
And also how we got there was a lot different as well. I mean, we looked at yield curve. We talk about, different periods of time where it can be problematic in the future when you see an inverted yield curve.
Right.
I mean, these are all things that we're watching for. And we had a pandemic that kind of just really everybody blazed over the economic data because, oh, man, everybody's shut down. But we were likely heading to a slowdown anyways.
Well, maybe just not to the same degree. Absolutely true.
But how can they give out stimulus checks and tell you things are, you know what I mean?
But not only that, Danny, why don't you bend over and let me kick you again? Think about what's happening now. They want to send out checks, again, because of gas prices. So everything is a check, which could lead to more inflation.
Correct.
Which means the Fed is going to have to move a lot faster. I think this Powell dude, Artie, or as Stephanie Pomboy, the economist, calls him, Mr. Magoo, I think that they probably needs to look at least 50 basis points on the next move, don't you?
Yeah, they need to do something. But the problem is that all the things that they're doing right now, it's all counterintuitive because we're treating the problem, the symptom, with what caused the symptom.
Right. Right. We use the same poison.
Correct.
It's amazing. But you know what? Markets, I think, in the face of all this, is holding up incredibly well. And I think part of that, even though underneath the surface, listen, there's a lot of damage. I spoke to somebody yesterday who was in all the tech stocks and all the meme stocks last year, who was telling me he's a market maven, right? How far has he fallen? Now he's down around 70%. And guess what he's got? Get evenitis. They'll come back. Yeah, your dog ran away in 1986. Do you think he's coming back?
Hey, but you're going to love this. Jim Cramer said maybe it's actually time to start buying stocks that make money.
Oh, wait, what?
Okay, wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air?
I'm on Lance's Twitter feed right now. I think I'm going to send out a whole tweet. What should I send out? Yeah, there's some guy, Bubbles and Bottoms. I thought that was a strip club in New Jersey. We get back, we're going to talk about what if your financial plan, you run it and it doesn't work. All hope is not lost. We're full of hope. Well, we're full of a lot of stuff this morning. When we get back on Financial Fitness Friday. Stay tuned.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
There's a war being waged on your retirement dollars. And unless you act now, you'll lose the battle with inflation, higher taxes, and a lower standard of living. You can blunt the effects of rising prices with our next workshop on combating inflation in retirement. April 2nd at the Embassy Suites Houston. Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff will help you fortify your life savings, make the most of Social Security, and lower your taxes. Register now for this free workshop at realinvestmentadvice.com. Combating inflation in retirement with Ratliff and Rosso. Realinvestmentadvice.com.
Anyone can sell you insurance, and they'll gladly take your premium dollars. The RIA Insurance Agency can provide you with insurance solutions tailor-made for your needs and lifestyle. Because everyone's assets are different, let RIA Insurance review what you need to protect and how. We won't sell you insurance, but what you need will be a matter of policy. RIA Insurance Agency. 888-915-0780. 888-915-0780. RealInvestmentAdvice.com. Click on the insurance tab.
What worries you about your money? Enhance your financial success with RIA Advisor's free financial planning tool, MyBlocks. It's our online modular manager for your money and your life. Does your vision of retirement match up to reality? MyBlocks can help to determine how much you'll need and how you can achieve. Create your own personal financial vision for the next decade with MyBlocks, our free tool at RIAadvisors.com. Click on the Client Portal tab, RIAadvisors.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Manage risk and volatility rather than trying to manage gains. You don't have to be right all the time. Long-term investing success is a 70% gain. Let us help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
Brent left me a good one today. These GPA-looking gas prices need to go. $3.89 or 3.89 is summa cum laude gas. I need some academic probation gas.
The sad thing is that's
You
down
need-
here.
You need Bluto. What's his name from Animal House? Your GPA is 0.00. Animal House, one of the best movies ever.
And how applicable today more than ever.
Son, your GPA is 0.0. Oh, boy. So listen, inflation is nothing to laugh at. It's its own little Animal House. Maybe the unfunny version with like Chevy Chase in it because he's not funny. We're going to do our Combating Inflation in Retirement workshop here at the Embassy Suites on April 2nd from 9 to 11. Now, listen, there's no magic elixir for inflation. We know this, right? But we want to go through the risks and dangers of inflation to retirement because not only could retirees be facing what I think is a poor sequence of returns, which means lower returns as we go forward, more volatility, right? They also have to deal with inflation. And that's, again, on a fixed income or where I don't have resources, where I'm not an earnings machine anymore. This is incredibly stressful. So, Danny, I know if you talk to your retiree clients who are taking distributions, they're watching their pennies now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's changed quite a bit. You know, and we do see these in times like this when we do see markets in turmoil. People historically, they tend to pull back a little bit. But now that we're seeing it, you know, not just markets with volatility, but we're seeing it actually at the counter when you're paying, you know, I mean, this is tough. And so when you go to the register and you're seeing that, you know, what used to cost you X amount is costing you quite a bit more, that becomes a problem. And so I think this is one of the things that is really difficult for people to get out of their habits. I mean, I know that like if you look at the Ratliff household, we have a pretty consistent probably grocery list and a budget.
But then you see the difference, right?
Correct. And it changes fairly substantially. And so I think that this is where people have to really get a hold and understanding as far as what they're doing, how they're buying it. And you know what else it is?
Yeah.
You know, we don't go out to eat often. We may go once a week. And what we're seeing, though, is that even just going out to eat, prices are starting to creep up a little bit.
They have to.
All of these things are. Well, you got to think just to get things from point A to point B, not to mention all the other issues that are out there. It's all getting more expensive.
I think I have the solution.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The significance of the passage of time. There is significance to that passage.
So we're just going to have
time.
to, are you saying we're going to have to wait this out?
The passage of time.
How long do we wait?
We have to wait till it's not as significant for this passage of time to pass. We just have to wait. So you need to come to this class. So Saturday, April 2nd, 9 to 11 a.m. Brent's ready to hook me off the radio going, you're done for the day. RealInvestmentAdvice.com. Sign up. I got a cough button. So sign up because it's 2 hours. You're going to learn something. Right? Social Security, Medicare changes are coming. Main Street Financial Advice debunked. You got to come. How to lower taxes in retirement, which is even more significant. Listen, we know all the ways, Danny, while we're working to lower taxes. We get that information ad nauseum, right? It's thrown at us all the time. But how the heck do you do it in retirement? Because you're not going to fall to the lowest tax bracket. You think you might, but you're not. So come sit with us. It's a live class. You'll enjoy it. We're sort of cheap, so we may not have refreshments. No, we will. We'll have something there.
I mean, 1 cup per person.
One cup of coffee per person, because coffee is expensive. Unless we wait for the significance of the passage of time. Now, in your financial plan, I had to meet with someone the other day, and I had to have a tough discussion. Danny, he wants to retire at 59 years old. Okay, admirable goal, young retiree. His plan doesn't work. Now, significant assets, wonderful job saving, little debt, but its plan doesn't work. Why? Well, part of it's longevity risk, right? They went to living to 100. They're coming up with numbers age 94, 97 years old. This money has to last multiple decades. And what if we do, Danny, go through a poor sequence of returns over the next 10, 15 years of lower returns, right? Not only that, I have to fill in the healthcare equation before Medicare, which can be, and there's no retirement healthcare benefit. So it can be very significant. So this is a tough conversation. If you're working with an advisor who has to tell you your plan's not working, that advisor has to give you hope, because a plan isn't a brick. It's clay. You mold it. You work with it till you get it to work. There are ways to do it, Danny, and it's not that painful to do.
I don't know if it's not that painful. It's just that I think the utter shock of saying, what, my plan's not going to work, scares people to death. But you know what?
But the thing is, I said that, but I said, listen, this is, I'm going to give you the most realistic information I can. I bet, before you continue, but I bet if he went to a big brokerage firm and had his plan,
it always worked.
It would have worked.
Of course.
It would have absolutely
There would have been no sequence of return risk. There would be very, very little. Returns would have been through the roof. And even then, you'd find a way to manipulate it to make sure that, A, it works, because, hey, nobody wants to work with somebody who says that their plan's not going to work. But that's what you need. You need somebody who's going to play devil's advocate, who's going to be the other kind of vision or other voice on your shoulder.
The objective voice, right?
Exactly. Saying, hey, maybe you need to look at this a little bit differently. And so keep in mind, there are lots of different ways to make these things work. Now, sometimes there's not. Sometimes, most people don't factor in the healthcare cost, especially prior to Medicare.
They don't think it's going to be as expensive for a family as it is. And what kind of coverage is it going to provide, right? It's going to be mostly catastrophic coverage. But then here's the most important thing. 59 years old and you want to retire. What's the reason? What's the why behind the want? Like when we write scripts, we talk about in movies and so forth. It's what's the dialogue behind the dialogue, right? So I had to get to the real reason why this gentleman wants to retire at 59. And guess what it was, really? He's just not happy at his work. He finally revealed to me, I'm not happy doing this. I work for a big retail firm. I'm not happy. I need a change. Okay, that's the issue, right? Yeah. It's not that he really necessarily wants to retire. It's that there's another issue.
You've been there, though. You've worked for the wrong firm at one point or another, and how bad they can make you. You may not even ever want to work again. Say, you know what? That's it. I'm hanging it up.
Let me tell you, if I was still working for Darth Vader, I'd have been working like the drive-through at Chick-fil-A. I mean, yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. So you got to understand is some minor tweaks makes a plan work, right? So here's what we found out. We found out his wife wants to continue to work, Danny. Therefore, he can do health care coverage on her.
Perfect.
We also found out that he's got a lot of skills to make money to be a consultant in this information tech area or logistics that he's working in, right? So he was able, I said, why don't you look around and see if you could find a job in a company you like, even if it's part-time. He did.
Good for him.
Right? And we know one thing, working longer or just working part-time adds exponentially to the success of a plan. So we did that.
Good for him.
We're looking at taking Social Security at 70, right? And then at a certain period of time, adding in an annuity for a pension option, right? His wife has to work about another year longer. She's okay with it because she doesn't want to be home with them. No offense. So guess what? We can't retire at 59, but we made it work at 61. We went from 13% probability of success to 93%.
That's a big change.
It's a big change, right? But listen, it wasn't hopeless. Your plan is designed to be a living, breathing document. And sometimes you got to dig into the underneath the numbers. You got to go away from the quantitative into the qualitative. What's going on with you that you need to do this at 59 years old? Because you are a master in your field. You like your field. You hate your job. And I said, have you discussed this with your wife? He goes on and off. I said, well, we're gonna get on a call with her. And that was bring other people into your decision because you can get it's so myopic. You can really, because you're so unhappy.
You get tunnel vision.
You get this tunnel vision. So not all plans end in annuities. All plans can be successful with tweaking, but you've got to have realistic numbers. You've got to have realistic numbers. And I am very concerned for people who are going to retire this year and going forward based on the volatility. Volatility is not your friend when you're in distribution mode. When you're Wilson as opposed to Tim the Toolman Taylor, right? When I'm the great show, Tool Time, right? I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm taking money out of my accounts. It's a different story. Volatility doesn't work for you. As opposed to when you're an accumulator and you're putting money in and you're possibly buying equity shares at a lower price. What else can I do to make my plan work, Danny? Because I really would like to work with you. You're a really good guy. You look like General Smith. You got a trustworthy face. You're going to tell me some other things we could do to make our plans work. It's never hopeless. And along with the significance of the passage of time, your plan will work. Thank you. We'll be right back. Financial Fitness Friday.
Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
There's a war being waged on your retirement dollars, and unless you act now, you'll lose the battle with inflation, higher taxes, and a lower standard of living. You can blunt the effects of rising prices with our next workshop on combating inflation in retirement. April 2nd at the Embassy Suites Houston. Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff will help you fortify your life savings, make the most of Social Security, and lower your taxes. Register now for this free workshop at realinvestmentadvice.com. Combating inflation in retirement with Ratliff and Rosso. Realinvestmentadvice.com.
Anyone can sell you insurance, and they'll gladly take your premium dollars. The RIA Insurance Agency can provide you with insurance solutions tailor-made for your needs and lifestyle. Because everyone's assets are different, let RIA Insurance review what you need to protect and how. We won't sell you insurance, but what you need will be a matter of policy. RIA Insurance Agency. 888-915-0780. 888-915-0780. RealInvestmentAdvice.com. Click on the insurance tab.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. A passive investment portfolio requires active risk management. It's not a choice, it's necessity. Diversification doesn't protect against risk of loss. Let us actively help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Can't catch the whole show now? Listen to our podcast later at realinvestmentadvice.com.
An energy rebate equating to $100 a month for individuals. Now, my daughter would love this. She was just complaining about filling up her car.
Was she complaining about that while she's standing in line waiting on a $6 cup of coffee?
No.
The Real Investment Show podcast.
The gym that she goes to,
Yeah.
it is literally, ladies and gentlemen, 300 yards down the street to the gym. She drives. So I'm letting her learn her lesson about being frugal.
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
Learn to use your feet, Flintstone.
Small businesses are discovering that attracting and retaining top talent come down to more than just salary. In today's highly competitive job market, compensation is more than just wages. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, RIA Advisors Retirement Plan Consultant. Healthcare and retirement plans can make the difference in hiring and retaining the best employees. We can show you how to build an affordable, effective employment package that delivers true value for your workers and your business. Call me toll-free at 855-RIA-PLAN or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Real Investment Show podcasts are now available from Stitcher Smart Radio at Stitcher.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets. And unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA Advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. It's a quick and easy application. Just simply click Ask a Question at realinvestmentadvice.com or give us a call at 855-RIA-PLAN. That's realinvestmentadvice.com.
You can blunt the effects of rising prices with our next workshop on combating inflation in retirement. April 2nd at the Embassy Suites Houston. Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff will help you fortify your life savings, make the most of Social Security, and lower your taxes. Register now for this free workshop at realinvestmentadvice.com. Combating inflation in retirement. realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
And we're back. Welcome to Financial Fitness Friday. Listen, we've got a lot of events that are going to be coming up through May. Lunch and Learns. Those go really well. It seems like we have a lot of people that are eating lunch with us.
Virtually.
Virtually, yeah. Always happy to do that. So we've got some coming up. And again, our Combating Inflation in Retirement, Saturday, April 2nd, 9 to 11. Sign up. Come see us. Watch Danny and I help you understand how you're never going to retire. No, it's not true. We just got to make sure you manage the pitfalls. And inflation is now another one of those pitfalls. Yeah, and the cost of living adjustment for Social Security is pretty good. And I have an estimate. I'm totally guessing that cost of living adjustment for next year, Danny, will probably be about 4.5.
Yeah.
But we also know what Medicare premiums, Part B, what that inflation looks like, right? Because one of the things we do really well in our plans, amongst all the others, is track inflation. Inflation by goal. And what I'm concerned about, Danny, is at the end of this year, for the beginning of next year, we might have to hike some of our inflation numbers. We did it early on, like during the pandemic, because based on the information coming out of the Atlanta Fed, they do a great job on sticky inflation. And they just do great studies on inflation, by the way, if you haven't seen them. And we just might have to raise that bar again for plans for next year.
Yeah, and that can be a big hurdle for a lot of plans to overcome. When we raised it last year, that changed some plans rather significantly. Mm-hmm. If you look at that, you look at volatility, you look at the speed of what people actually take funds out at, these things can really disrupt a plan pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But our job is, like we mentioned earlier, is to really make sure we're stressing these funds so that when these events occur, you guys are going to be okay. You can You can weather these storms. And I think that's one of the bigger parts of the plan. So you mentioned earlier about, how you can use a plan in different ways.
Right.
But I think one of the bigger aspects of it's a roadmap.
It is.
And, there's going to become forks in the road. There's things that we don't know that will occur, but this is going to give us the foundation to come back to say, okay, this is the way we need to go, or here's your options. Which one is best for you and your family? And, while I know Lance gives us a hard time saying, plans are so boring. and I get it. And a lot of people don't want to do them because they feel like there's finality to them. But there's never really finality to a plan because we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
And there's nothing more flexible than a plan.
Correct.
Right? Because your life is. It's just if your life is a film, it's a snapshot. And those snapshots change. Plans change. Goals change. People say, listen, in 20 years, I might want to do this. I had clients that say, hey, I would like to have a second home. But then I decide I really don't want a second home. So that's okay. Or I want to have a fishing camp. But you know what? I don't.
I don't want to pay for it.
I don't want to pay for it.
I want all those things.
Yeah, I don't want to pay for it. Yeah, Danny, put that in my plan, but have someone else pay for it.
There you go.
Plans are designed to be flexible, and you just need minor tweaks to make them work. But guess what? There's no magic in these plans that comes from, say, the stock market. And what I mean by that is a stock market, even a good one, and mostly, obviously, a good one, is not going to overcome your financial pitfalls for your entire life. Yeah, it could cement in or over a lot of mistakes. But if you have, say, a hurdle rate of 7-8%, those are the kinds of returns you need to meet your goals. That's a problem. Or it's a solution, because how do you get there? Half of it might be the market, but the other half has to be you. There's no magic to this. It's work. It's work on your advisor's part and work on your part. If you're a fiscal wreck, your advisor can't work magic, right?
Well, and I think that's some of the problems that when people step into a plan, they're looking at these things and they say, well, okay, I have to get a lot more aggressive.
Right.
Or they make some mistakes.
Right.
Instead of doing the things that we should inherently do, right? The best thing we have is our human capital. And instead of making these decisions and making some of the harder ones where we forego some of the things that we'd like to do now, and
we want to get more aggressive.
Yeah, let me get more aggressive. I've got 2 years to retirement. We've got to make up for lost time. Well, wait a second.
That's very common, by the way.
Well, it is. It's extremely common. And it's extremely problematic, especially when you're seeing it with PEs where they are today, with the level of debt. I mean, the list goes on and on. You guys all know what the potential headwinds are here. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's going to end right now, but when it does, it could be very ugly. And this is what we see disrupt plans, which is why when we run a plan, we actually look and say, what happens if the first 2 years you retire, your portfolio just goes to shambles? And this is interesting in the sense that, well, that's not going to happen. Well, what if it did?
We have to take that into account.
Yeah.
How nice is it when we do have market turbulence, when you run people's plans here and they haven't changed? Because I met with someone just a couple of weeks ago. Plan worked last year. Plan doesn't work this year. They got a plan run at one of the big brokerage firms. 99% success. Now they're at 45%.
Well,
and we haven't even had this big of a downturn in the market, Danny.
Correct. But if you always assume that things are going to be so good.
Exactly.
And when you have any little hiccup, it throws everything awry. It literally, you're priced to perfection if you're going to say that these things are you're always going to make 8%. There's never going to be volatility. You're not going to give yourself a raise. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can run a plan, but we want to make sure that we're doing so that you can encounter these events and still thrive. I think that's the main issue.
And you said it. That's a very excellent way to say it. They are priced for perfection for accumulators, especially. They're not priced for vulnerability for distributors, right? Because if I'm in a distribution mode, if I'm Wilson on the other side of the fence, and I don't have a television show to make money off of, or my wife doesn't work, and I'm just depending upon a variable investment nest egg, then I have to examine the vulnerability of that plan. Like you said, what if it does happen? The first 10 years of distributions and market returns, or variability of those returns on your portfolio, is going to mark the success of your distribution process over the following 10 and the following 10. A 10% correction, which should be as normal as breathing if you invest in stocks, can be detrimental to a distribution plan depending upon the distribution rate. That's not something we're used to, Danny, because we're used to being human capital earnings machines, accumulators. Going to the distribution mode is a totally different mindset, isn't it?
It is. It's one of those conversations that we do have frequently. And it's probably the most difficult thing for most people to do because we discuss, we're planning as accumulators, we accumulate. And now all of a sudden, we've based our kind of end game on. Now you have to unravel it. And you start taking distributions. And that's extremely difficult. And, more so for men. And we talk about this from the retirement, kind of the crossover risk. And we will be talking about this in more detail on April 2nd. Go to signuprealinvestmentadvice.com. It'll be our live event here at Beltway 8 and I-10 here in Houston. Love to see you guys out. But this is one of the most difficult things for people to do is the psychological impact of actually starting to take those distributions. And we encourage a lot of times when there's the ability, sometimes you can kind of go through a faux retirement and start practicing ahead of time. We say, okay, all your paychecks are going to go to this account. We're going to start making distributions this way. And now it's going to look and feel a little bit different because you may still be saving. You may still have your retirement or your health care, HSA plans, things of that nature. But there's so many moving parts. There are ways, though, that we can kind of start to go through a practice trial run. And I think that's
a good idea. Even a year before you retire.
Yeah.
Is to really, micro budget. Know where every penny is going. I know it sounds boring, but what an awareness it is going to create for you. And to what Danny just said, we're going to live off X amount of dollars. Can we do it? I would say 2 out of every 5 couples that I work with who do this fail. But guess what? It's an area that they improve because they begin to understand the crossover risk of, oh gosh, I'm not bringing this money in, because how many times do you hear from people who are working, I think I know where my money is going. We don't want for anything. I don't worry about where every dollar is going. I sort of know. Well, now it's not enough. Now I need to know. A couple of years of micro budgeting, especially in early stage of retirement, but you'll live and breathe the budget after a while, it won't even bother you. But you do need to know where your money is going and how you're spending it. But it really becomes a really good challenge to do that trial run.
Yeah.
People learn a lot about themselves, Danny, I think. It's interesting to see.
Well, a trial run a lot of times as well makes you think, okay, like you mentioned earlier, there are things that you think you want, but maybe you really don't want or need like you think you do. And I think that's one of the bigger aspects is that really understanding, getting a really good view or vision of where your money goes. How important is it, or are these things to you? Because that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. How do you want to spend your time? What do you want to do with it? And that's how we spend our money as well. So go sign up, though, realinvestmentadvice.com. Next event, April 2nd, not this Saturday, but the following, live in person. We'd love to have you guys out there. We'll get right back after this next break with how do you boost your credit score? Thanks for watching The Real Investment Show. We'll be right back.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
There's a war being waged on your retirement dollars, and unless you act now, you'll lose the battle with inflation, higher taxes, and a lower standard of living. You can blunt the effects of rising prices with our next workshop on combating inflation in retirement. April 2nd at the Embassy Suites Houston. Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff will help you fortify your life savings, make the most of Social Security, and lower your taxes. Register now for this free workshop at realinvestmentadvice.com. Combating inflation in retirement with Ratliff and Rosso. Realinvestmentadvice.com.
Anyone can sell you insurance, and they'll gladly take your premium dollars. The RIA Insurance Agency can provide you with insurance solutions tailor-made for your needs and lifestyle. Because everyone's assets are different, let RIA Insurance review what you need to protect and how. We won't sell you insurance, but what you need will be a matter of policy. RIA Insurance Agency. 888-915-0780. 888-915-0780. RealInvestmentAdvice.com. Click on the insurance tab.
Do you know what you don't know when hiring and retaining quality employees? Compensation is more than just wages. It's personal time off, the vacation days, healthcare benefits, a 401k. Do you know what's important to them? Hi, I'm Tom Allen, RIA Advisors Retirement Plan Consultant. Let us show you how to make the most of an affordable, effective package that will deliver true value for your business and your employees. Call me toll free at 855-RIA-PLAN or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Bulls win in bull markets. Bears win in bear markets. Eagles soar above and take advantage of opportunity. Let us help you soar as you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
Did you know 5 million people struggle to access financial products and public services because there isn't enough information on their credit score? This is a study with Experian and The Independent. Lots of big information gaps when it comes to credit scores. Listen, they're not that easy to figure out what all that goes into it. I could tell you what blows it up. We started Haley very young on understanding her credit score. First thing we did was to get her a secured card. Mm-hmm. We went through creditcards.com and NerdWallet, found some of the best secured cards, started working with them. And she did a pretty good job. She did a really good job building her credit score. I told her, you got to use it. You got to use the secured credit card, pay it off on time every month. That's what I want you to do. Pay it off. Pay it off. So we went through this exercise. But one thing, she was also an authorized user on her mom's card to start, and mom missed a payment. So I went to see Haley and Emory last week. By the way, incredible, beautiful campus. And Georgia is a beautiful state. She goes, Dad, my credit score dropped like 100 points. I said, it's your mom. She goes, it was Mom. She missed a payment by mistake. So, sometimes being an authorized user in the beginning when your child's trying to build credit is a good thing if the other user is diligent. So just a lesson we learned and talked about last week. Get off your mom's card now. You're on your own, and you're doing great. But you got to manage your credit score. You got to check it. You got to manage it. Obviously, there was a big story about, I think, how medical debts were no longer going to be part of credit score.
Well, I think that's a big thing. So, you know what happened to me last year? I blew my knee out and had to have surgery. Mm-hmm. I actually had something show up on my credit report, I don't know, a month ago.
Oh, medical?
Medical.
Oh.
It was less than $100.
And you didn't even know it was probably...
Never received a bill, never anything. Finally, somebody calls me on the phone, thinks it's spam. And I said, well, you can pay me right now. It's like, I'm not paying you right now. Send me a bill. You've never sent me anything.
That was me calling Danny.
It probably was. Well,
the whole,
right now
the whole,
$100, Danny.
Yeah.
the whole medical billing thing is a game.
It is. It's
you know,
ridiculous.
you get 15 different bills when you're in the hospital for 15 different services.
In all
Well, I said-
fairness, those billing departments can't enjoy you.
No.
Well,
No.
I said, hold on now. I said, I'm not trying to give you a hard time here, but did you ever actually send me a statement? Oh, yeah, we did. So what address? I had lived at the address they sent something to in like 10 plus years. Like, wait a second. This wasn't on any of the information that you guys took when I went into the hospital. This wasn't on my insurance. This is just poor mismanagement here. This shouldn't be on me. And it should not impact my credit score either. But talk about trying to get something removed.
Don't be a deadbeat, Danny.
What a pain in the
Pay your
butt. So I told him, I said, I'll pay you. Send me a statement. I will pay you. Here's my address.
You know, I bet
Then I got
what-
another one. It was like $50-something. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
You know what I bet would have worked in this case?
What's that?
The passage of time.
Significant.
Well, maybe it
passage.
will. I still haven't received a bill from
Really?
either of them. Not one. This
Still?
is both happened in the last month. And one of them, I said, what is this for? Well, this is for a brace. I said, you mean the brace I spent like $300 for when in the hospital because you told me I needed it? Then you go to the doctor and they tell you need another one. Oh, this isn't, you can't use this.
He needed a brace for his other brace
Yeah.
at that point.
Tell me want a refund for the
I want a
first
refund.
brace.
That's right. It was terrible.
Brace for a lower credit score, buddy.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I got an alert, and that's how I found out about it initially. I'm like, oh.
So how did you
okay.
get that alert? Share it with everybody because that's
So
important
you
for
know
people
you
to
can have lots of
understand.
different types of services that will monitor your credit. Most actual big banks will actually do that for you now, or credit card
Yes.
companies.
They'll say there's your credit scores. Right. Very.
So
yes.
like Chase has like Credit Journey, Wells Fargo has something, Bank of America, all the big banks do, and even the smaller ones do now as well. But you can also pay for services that will actually give you some credit card, give you a little bit of protection. However, they can't protect you from something like that, which is really frustrating because, I mean, you know, if you looked at my credit score, you know, we don't have really much debt. We try to pay things down. You know, I would say it's pretty darn good. So it's really frustrating when something like that pops up that you're not in control of.
Yes.
So that's why you do have to be diligent, though, like you mentioned with Haley. You know, this was something she had no control over, but is there something she could have done?
Well,
Probably
we should
not
have,
in this instance.
Well, we could have. We should have removed her once she was on her own,
Yeah.
flying on her own from a credit perspective. We should have taken her off her mom's account.
Yeah, because
And we
she's
didn't
not
do
using
it,
the
'cause
card.
She's not using it for what we needed it for anymore,
Yeah.
and that was an oversight.
So, you know, that's
yeah.
a good point, though. So what are some of the other things that people can do, especially young people? And, you know, one of the issues that we typically see, if you've ever been on a college campus, you'll know that there's somebody's always handing out a pizza or a T-shirt or something because, oh, sign up for this credit card. It's easy.
Now, when I was in college, they had, maybe even you, Danny, they had tables set up everywhere in the student union, right? Sign up for this credit card, you know, and like they had all the free T-shirts. You know, they make it very appetizing. You get a student rate. Now I think by law they're not allowed to do that anymore. But when Brent went to school, the Iceman came, dropped off the credit card.
Back in
Did
the
they have
last century.
Did they have credit then?
Yeah.
What
yeah. Well, and over the significant passage of time, I was.
I mean,
able
they had
take
to write
care
it
of
on
that.
tablets, but yes.
Yes.
And not the type that we're thinking of.
Not iTablets either.
Correct.
So instead of teaching children, which college students are, how to use credit properly, we're just going to pull away all the temptation.
Well, I think
And I
that
guess that's part
they
of
do
it,
need to
but-
understand. So one thing that I saw friends fall into pitfalls with is that, you know, they'd get a credit card and they say, we're going to increase your amount. We're going to increase your credit limit. And so they'd get in this hole and they get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So the one thing I did do that I think was really smart when I was younger was I capped it. It was like $1,200. And now it could be, you know, it could be detrimental at times if you really needed something, but $1,200 and it kept me, you know, where I never got too out of bounds and I never went too far.
Because you don't think you will, but
No.
you don't want to. How many times do you get an email going, well, based on your salary or whatever, you know, congratulations, but we're willing to increase your credit available to this.
Correct.
And I'm like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah.
I don't even want the temptation there to do it. Even though I would never do it, at least I don't think I would. Why should I even have that in front of me?
Well, especially not when you're starting off. You're really
Well,
trying to get an
regardless
understanding
of your
how
age,
money works.
I don't. Thank you for the compliment. I'll go out and, you know, push that limit, but no.
It's just another flavor of a marketing pitch from
Well, that's
the
what
credit
it
card
is.
company.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, the other issue is that they'll automatically do it. They'll just, next thing you know, you wake up and your credit score's high. I had to physically call them and tell them, do not increase my credit score.
Well, because sometimes they'll say, listen, we're going to increase it unless we hear from you. They use some sort of negative, and then how many people actually call and say, like you did, you know what? No. Because you know what? The amount of credit that is available to you, even though you don't use it and max it out, will also impact your credit score. Because the credit companies know that maybe you lose your mind one day and you decided you're going to blow out that card. So it's not only pushing the upper parameters of the limits on the card that can affect your credit score. It's how much credit is actually available to you to access if you need it. If I have 5 cards and they all have $50,000, $100,000 limits and I don't use them, my credit score, the credit agencies are still looking at that going, wow,
you have the
this guy's got a
ability.
lot. You have the ability.
So that can work in reverse, even though you have these great credit
That's
limits.
Right.
It may actually be hindering you from getting a loan for a home or things of that nature, just because they'll say, well, you have the ability to go pull all this additional funds.
Right.
Yeah. It can work in reverse.
This is a constantly managed area of your financial life. You can't let it go dormant. That's why one of our rules every year is pull your credit report. To Danny's point, you are getting a lot of information on your score. That is not your credit report. Yes, they're intertwined there, right? They sort of mix together to some degree, but you want to pull, and you can do it for free. You don't have to pay for that. To pull your credit report, go through all those accounts every year.
Well, it's important, but your credit score will typically notify you or give you awareness to a potential issue.
Correct.
And I think that's the bigger aspect.
Right. It's an alert system.
Correct.
Something's affected your score. So that does make sense. But if you want to get your kids started, I still think a credit card builder through a secured credit card, Danny,
absolutely
is. I think we started with like $200 on a Chase card.
They need a bank account.
Yes, and
something they can use.
That's right.
Get a secured account card, and then you can baby step into a credit card. I do think they need it because the problem we see a lot of times is, let's say somebody graduates from college, they get their first job, they work for a couple of years, and they go to buy a home, and they can't attain any credit because they've never had any. And so this is where you need to at least establish something, get the ball rolling, but put the guardrails on, put the bumpers if you're at the bowling alley and make sure that you're not going too far. Know your limitations and understand that it is a process. So you're slowly building on top of one building block to the next to the next.
How many retirees, Danny, do you know with poor credit scores? I know multiple people.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't use it. They don't need to. But guess what? They should. You never know when you're going to need credit.
Well, you can use it to your advantage. Number one, if you had a credit card, you can get points and miles.
That's right.
Number two, with the low interest rates that we have seen, and we're still relatively low historically, you can still use that to your advantage. And I think that people leave a lot of money on the table by not using credit properly because we are told how bad it is. And it is in many ways when not used properly.
Correct. That's it for us today. Financial Fitness Friday. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, everybody. Have a great weekend. It's going to be a nice one. Lance Monday. See ya.
Money, money, money. Must be funny in a rich man's world. Money, money, money. Always sunny in a rich man's world. All the things I could do if I had a little money. It's a rich man's world. It's a